Also add in the fact they haven't exactly got a good record, any government, of putting in big IT projects. Most of them don't end up, getting delivered on time, on budget, or working. This goes right down to council level. The other thing that concerns me is there is this sort of Orwellian sort of overwatch, and we've seen it in countries where it's being used to suppress populations like Hong Kong and in other countries around the world. And I think at a time where hacking is happening, on a daily basis, major, global companies, as well as, I think there was hacking of the electoral roll not so long ago, about 40 million records went. And I just think this will be a field day for scammers and con artists contacting people, in the run up to it. If they did
Daniel,
bring it in,
yeah, what
all of these things.
What do you say to people who say that, look, we're handing over so much of our data every second of the day, we are using digital IDs anyway, that actually some of this is about making life easier for people?
Well, we've got national insurance numbers, we've got driving licenses, we've got passports, and that when you throw everything into one database, you run the risk that if your data does get compromised, they've got the whole lot. And people can also choose. There's also proof of age schemes, for kids who want to have like a citizen card or something along those lines. So there's lots of things in place at the moment, and I just think that it's important that we should be focused on getting things done that people can actually see on the ground. I think this has also been a bit of a reaction to sort of trying to be seen harder on immigration, and trying to look tough there. But Tony Blair, looked at this back when he was in power, and that even then there's companies who would get the contract. Again, there's...
Okay, Daniel, I'm just going to stay with us because I just want to bring in the panel now. Matthew, you were around when Tony Blair was Prime Minister. Are you in favour of ID cards? What do you say to these?
Well, you keep saying ID cards and it's not a card. I think that is an important distinction between the scheme that is proposed now and what was proposed back before. The reality is in that intervening 20 years, we have all got used to using our smartphones in ways that just weren't imaginable back then, and particularly during COVID and now with the NHS app, people are very much more used to using digital ID. I would also make the point that, as Daniel himself said, if you've got a driving licence or a passport, then the government already has all of this information. You're not giving over new information to the government. What you are doing is ensuring that there is a practical system. So, for example, if you're trying to rent a flat, you have to currently try and dig out, a couple of bank statements or a photocopy of your passport or something like that. You then hand these bits of paper over to the agency. You don't know what happens to them or where they go or whatever. That is a massively insecure situation we have at the moment. Something like digital ID would solve those sorts of problems.
Daniel, what do you say to that? It could make things easier for people and actually be more secure.
I think that one of the reasons we get in these positions is because of convenience, and people sign away. At least if you download something, you've got you can read, where it's going, your data. I still think that there's huge problems with hacking. NHS gets hacked all the time. We've had airports getting hacked. I think that there will be a field day in the run up to it, as I said before. And the other thing about everything going sort of digital, we're talking about this with pharmacies and various other things. And if it's on the NHS app, over the road from where I'm sitting now is a pharmacy. And you watch the tick and tock each day of people coming past. The staff in there know the general public that are around. They know Mr. Jones, who comes down and walks past 3 days a week. It's an early warning system. If everything goes online, I think it's not a good thing for the NHS. And it's not a good thing for, just face-to-face interactions as well. I think there's a generation of people, older people, who have lost high street banking, which virtually doesn't exist anymore. And yes, we are moving in this direction, but I think you make a choice to get a driving license. You should make a choice to get a passport. And also, quite frankly, I don't want to be tracked every single movement I make by a government. I don't want to have Jamie Oliver in my fridge every time I open the door telling me what to bloody eat.
It'd be all right if you
I
cook the
don't want
food,
the
though,
fact,
wouldn't it,
we
Daniel?
had in COVID and my lockdown, we got that app, which it meant that, if you went outside your zone, if you moved, it was just, and by the way, at the time, the whole government was gallivanting around the country doing what they wanted. I just think that this is
Okay, Daniel, let me
something that
bring
they
in, I
should
just
be,
want to
there's
ask the
far
rest of the
more
panel.
things that they should be focused on now. And the other thing, didn't Tony Blair's foundation get something like 250 million quid off Oracle as well? I mean, who's it going
Okay,
to
let
go
me just
to?
bring in the
Who's
panel,
the
Daniel,
IT going to go to? And who are going to buy
to answer
shares
that.
in those companies
Matthew?
before it gets linked? We've just been talking about Michelle Lowe.
Daniel, I just want to bring in the panel on that. Matthew, what do you say to that?
Well, look, it's clear we've got a bit more work to do to persuade Daniel of the merits of the scheme, and I'm sure there will be a very lively debate as this goes forward, not least on Nick's phone-ins.
Yeah, Nick, what do your listeners make of it?
A little bit nervous. I think wasn't it Boris Johnson who once hid in a fridge famously? It wasn't Jamie Oliver, as I recall, to try and avoid an interview. What I don't know, and I'm sure Daniel can speak to this, is if Daniel needs to employ wait staff or someone to work behind the bar, he already has to produce. That person has to produce national insurance numbers or whatever else. So while I hear what you say, and the world has moved on, Matthew, all the information that you'll have to put on you is already available, isn't it? So why will that way make it any stricter than having NI numbers already?
Because, for example, with national insurance numbers, they aren't, you don't link them to an individual in the same way. You could turn up and say,
mine is individual to me, isn't it?
No, what I mean is, sorry, if you turn up with a national insurance number, then it's a lot harder for employers to then have to do the checks. Your national insurance number is not a form of photo
so what
ID.
Else will be on my digital ID apart from my NI number?
Well, look, there's a whole load.
Date of birth, I get that.
There's a whole load of work that actually the Department of Science and Technology has been working on. So, for example, the government is already in the process of rolling out digital driving licences so that you can have that in a government wallet on your phone.
The information is already there, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, exactly. And that's my point. Is that actually this is not the sort of great leap in some senses that people are sort of making it out to be.
Sienna, where do you think the Labour Party is on this? It's not totally in agreement about it.
No, not totally in agreement about it. I mean, I think it's a bit of a horseshoe issue where the Labour left are very sceptical about it, and much same as kind of the Conservatives and Reform will be very sceptical about this. I think what the average person would say, I think, is do we trust the government with this, both not only in terms of the ethics, that dimension, but also just in terms of competency? Do we know more about, where these software engineers are going to be based? What kind of vetting, are they going to have the security clearance necessary? All of those kind of safeguards that will protect us from those cybersecurity concerns, which are escalating all the time because, Russia, etc. That's a massive worry for people.
But we have a perfectly secure passport system at the moment. We have a perfectly secure driving license system. But you're talking about
putting all this data in one place, aren't you?
Well, but I don't see what the difference is between the databases that you have now and the necessary technology that you'd have for the digital ID. I just don't see it as being fundamentally different in the way that you're talking about it.
It's just been hacked.
Sorry?
What about the electoral roll that's just been hacked? About 40 million piece of data, people's details went there. And you've got hacking of the NHS all the time and everything. I mean, it's not secure. And as the last person has just said, we're in a proxy war at the moment with places like Russia and China, and hacking and misinformation and everything is rife.
Well, look, I'm confident that, the systems have worked in other countries, and I think it's right and it's time for us to introduce it here, is my view.
What I think is strange, if I can add, I think Stephen Kinnock was selling the policy wrong. They're trying to talk about illegal migrants working in the shadow economy. I don't think that's the best case for it. I actually think the best case for it is